generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host. Opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the host.
Barbara Jean Lindsey is an internationally acclaimed psychic, spiritual healer, author, and founder of the online mystery school, Esoteric University. As the Cosmic Oracle, she is a conduit to the powers that be to answer your questions about your future self, past lives, current careers. She shines light into the darkness to illuminate what was, what may be, and beyond. The readings and advice given by Barbara Jean Lindsey are for entertainment purposes only. Do not take the place of spiritual healer or financial advice given to you by a qualified professional and are
founder of the online mystery school,
Esoteric University. Call a doctor.
As the Cosmic Oracle, she is a conduit to the powers that be to answer your questions about your future selves, past lives. Do not take the as the Cosmic.
Hello and welcome to the Cosmic Oracle Show. I'm not sure if I'm being heard out there, so if you're in the chat room, if you could give me a heads up or a thumbs up or a hello. It's the Cosmic Oracle Show. It's your host, Barbara Jean Lindsey. On my end, I'm not able to hear anything, so I'm not sure if I'm being heard or not. So if someone's out there, like Patrick, can you just give me a heads up in chat? To make sure that everything's on board and that everyone can hear me. Because on my end, I can't hear anything. So if someone could let me know, that would be great. But it is May 25th, 2018. We are coming to you live from Plumas Lake, California. And I hope that we're coming live from Plumas Lake, California on my end. I might have to reboot and come back again. So I'm not sure what the problem is here. But it's, I think I will go back out and come back in again because on my end, I cannot hear anything happening. So, okay, I'm not hearing from anyone. So, boy, this is a good way to start off the show, but we're not going to give up. We're going to persevere. We're going to come back, and I'm going to drop the call, but I will be right back because sometimes that helps when I do that. Okay, so we're ready here. All right. So let's see. What's the next step here? Can you hear me on radio? So let's find out. If I get a yes, then we'll just go right ahead. Because on my end, I'm speaking into nothingness. So let's see what's going on here. Usually it'll come off, but I'll reconnect and then we can hear back again. So I'm not sure what exactly the problem is at all, or if we even have a problem. So Houston, if you're hearing me, do we have a problem here, or are we live with the Cosmic Oracle Show today? Otherwise, I will go ahead and reboot and redo this whole thing and start back again, if you think that's a good idea. So if I could have some response would be great. And I'm going to try someone here. Can you hear me on Studio B? So let's see if you can hear me. I'll continue to talk and maybe I will get back some response here. So I hope that you are listening. And this is your host, Barbara Jean Lindsey. You are listening to the Cosmic Oracle Show. And we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty, but I'm hoping that we will get that all fixed and be able to come on the show. So I'm not sure. Let's see what's happening here. So let's see. Okay. Yep. No answer yet. So I think what I'm going to, you're fine. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Patrick. I just wasn't sure what was going on. Okay, so we are live. Thank you for persevering with me here. Our technical difficulties are all fixed. And I'm really excited to be on the show today on Friday, May 25th. We have an amazing guest, a new friend of mine. I think I can call him my friend. I think so. Brad Olsen will be on today, and we're going to interview him about his study and his research and his passion now for the ancient knowledge of giants, not only in America, but on the world stage as well, about our mythology and the ancestry. And we're going to get into all the bones, okay, the deep bones of the giants. And so, all right. So we do want to thank you for listening to Revolution Radio. And we are the #1 supported internet radio show on the planet and the time being. And so we want to thank you for that and for all your donations that you have been so generous with giving to us over the years. And we want to keep Revolution Radio on the air. And I will be calling Brad in just a few moments. But before we do, we want to thank you. And to our listeners, we have raised so far this month $2,044, and we do need $2,600. So we ask that you go into your pockets there, or go hit that credit card or PayPal or Venmo or Bitcoin or however you want to do it, and go to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com and find that donate button and hit it, okay? And support us, because we are an all-volunteer station. No one gets paid for anything here, and all your money goes directly to keeping us on the air. And thank you so much for your generous donations in the past, and we'll thank you in advance as well. So without further ado, I'm going to give our new friend here, Brad, a call, and we'll see what happens, okay? So let's give it a shot and see what we can do. So here we go, Brad. We're going to give Brad a call right now. So add to call. There we go. So we'll be giving Brad a call, and we're bringing him on to the show today. There he is. Hey, Brad.
Hello.
Hey, we had some technical difficulties at the beginning, but we're getting through, I hear, so we're doing okay. So glad you could join us today.
Well, nice to hear your voice again, Barbara Jean Lindsey. It's great to be here on the Cosmic Oracle for the first time. Hello?
Yeah, it is our first time. Hopefully, did I lose you? Are you there?
No, I hear you.
Okay, great. I am having some trouble here today. It seems to go in and out. So we'll just kind of hang in there and get through this. And I think it'll start off this way, but I think as we talk and the energies all merge, then we'll be able to be okay. All right?
Sounds perfect.
Okay.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah. So I would like to tell them a little bit about you. I met you at the Consciousness with Javier's conference for the first time. And so we had a connection. I thought, I know this guy from somewhere. And you gave your presentation, and the rest is history, I guess. And so, and we've never really had a time to really talk or chat. And we tried several different times. I know you wanted to talk about the Integratron and things like that. And we just really haven't been able to. So I'm hoping today, I'm really excited to share with our listeners all of your research and your work you've been doing to prepare for Contact in the Desert coming up June 1st through the 4th at Indian Wells near Palm Springs, California. And so we'll be talking about what you have in store for us there. But before we do, I do want to tell everybody a little bit about who you are. And you are the author of 9 books. I have one sitting in front of me called Modern Esoteric. It looks really cool. It's Modern Esoteric Beyond Our Senses, and the revolution is consciousness. And your other book, Future Esoteric, and that you are an award-winning author, a public speaker, and you have a radio show here on Revolution Radio, the Esoteric Circle, every Wednesday at 3 o'clock.
That's right.
And then it goes live elsewhere, too. I noticed that you have it. Where else does it show or listen to?
Late night in the Midlands, and I also do the Facebook Live so I can capture the video and another version of audio.
Oh, so that's good. So you're out there. And I remember, too, that you were on Ancient Aliens on the History Channel as well. That's in your background.
It's in the bio as well. Yeah.
You have an extensive bio. I mean, it would take us the whole show to put down everything that you're saying. So we'll just give them a few of the things that you've done. You've been in Awareness Life Expo, and you've been on Coast to Coast. You've been on Fade to Black and Ground Zero. As far as all your speaking with radio host and public engagement, you just did a Consciousness 2D. Is it in Florida?
2.0 in Orlando, Florida. Yeah.
Yeah, and that sounds really interesting. And is that a fairly new one that they have there in Florida? It's the second year or something like that?
They're getting it started up. Yeah, there was another iteration of it with the Sanctuary Florida store that Mary Ellen Popick had, and she did vendor events and some speakers in the store. So that was the 1.0. And then, yes, she's just getting this started with 2.0, but looking for 2.5 in October. But I'll just cycle through every 2 or 3 times, but she's going to try to do it 2 times a year. So it's great that we got another little hive started in Central Florida, and it's a great trip for me to go down there. And Mary Ellen works for Disney, so she was able to get passes, and did Magic Kingdom one day and Epcot one day, and then Universal Studios with my other friend, Reverend John K. Polk, who was also a radio show host. And then they were both on the Esoteric Circle last Wednesday with me, and we did a show recap and then talked about some of the very ancient bog people that lived in that part of Florida, less than an hour from Orlando, right near Cape Canaveral. And that was fascinating. If you want me to tell you about it.
I would, because it's interesting that it was just right there, and it's only an hour from where you were, and that it's something that you actually got to see and go to, not just in a book or see in a video. You actually physically went there, right?
Say that again?
You actually physically went to the place?
Went to the place, yeah. So I just need to give a little backstory. Sorry, once in a while your words are choppy and I have to be sure I hear everything just right.
Okay.
So when Mary Ellen approached me about 6 months ago about starting this up, and I was happy to help her get started and give a little marketing advice, because we need more of these. These should really be in every city in America. This is really breaking news and information that people should have access to for the first time ever. And that's what I talk about in my Esoteric Series books. So she has those and saw me in Ancient Aliens, all this stuff, invited me to come out. And part of the deal was, hey, I got this really amazing, very old archaeological site that we can also go and try to investigate. She'd never been there before, but as a good research assistant, looked into it and got the directions to several locations. So the backstory is, this is one of the oldest people that have been found in North America, dating as far back, some records, and this is also with DNA, at least 7,500 to 8,500 years ago. Some put them as far back as 10,000 years ago. All agree that they existed right around the time of the very end of the Ice Age. The Pleistocene. It even says that on a plaque, and it also says it's the oldest known textile in North America, along with the oldest known DNA, and they were all buried in a very ritualistic fashion in this peat bog off the Florida coast, right by Cape Canaveral. It's actually in the town Titusville, and they were like bundled up into the curling fashion, placed into the bog mud, usually about 5-10 feet of water. And since the body would normally float away, they strategically placed wooden pegs with a board on top of the body and hammered down the wooden pegs to hold the board in place and hold the person there. And then they just basically sunk into the bog, which turns out to be a remarkable way to preserve bodies. And so they came out mummified. So it just everything I learned about this, and thank goodness Mary Ellen has this kind of spirit about her to do the research and tell me about it, knowing that I'd be the guy who'd be very interested in this. And then so we went out there, we found the plaque, and she kept saying, okay, the sites around here, we know that they dug in this spot where they found them. They pulled up 167 so far, with many still likely remaining. So finally we got to, this is just day before yesterday. Yesterday I flew back. And we got, before I did the Esoteric Circle, and we talked about it on that show. So we got info from the postman. He's like, oh yeah, it's probably right around that sign where it was. So we drove slowly and we looked at everything. And finally there was just a gate. Did say no trespassing, but we're researchers on official business, you see. So we took the liberty of not harming anything, but just basically stepping around a gate. And sure enough, it was the archaeologist camp. There were shovels, rakes, coolers, tools that were locked, a barbecue, a picnic bench. And then further back was a great big container with a backhoe and a drill machine. Then what was really interesting in the whole thing, and we saw some areas that had been disturbed, but there were roads and paths that went through, but they went through to nowhere. There was no house being built or nothing. So we found the site, and then but the best part of it, we found one of the mounds that they had recreated and reinterred the Native American remains. And that is what is part of the agreement with Native Americans, is that they would prefer that those bones, after being studied, be returned to the ground, similar to what happened with the Kennewick Man in Washington State. So I have this utter fascination with anything ancient on this continent and the peopling of other races. And that's could be a good segue to my talk at Contact in the Desert, which is about the prehistoric times of giants in this country and why there is a forbidden archaeology taboo about discussing hundreds of bones that came out of hundreds of sites with enigmatic features about these very big beings that has just been tabooed to speak about. But nonetheless, the fossil and bone record speaks for itself, along with many other crucial pieces of evidence and that I've found linking these giants around the world in prehistoric times, but also finding that there may be some that still live here today.
Wow. And so let's go, what would you define as a giant? Is that from, is there a certain...
Well, you know, I'm a tall guy. It's 6'7". Everybody looks up to me. Maybe that's part of my fascination with all this, because they're much, much bigger than me. And let's just say if people kind of freak out because I'm a big guy, can you imagine how big some of these were? But we're talking, 7, 8, 9, 10, but also 12, 15, 18, and 24 feet tall. Yeah, those are the really old ones, and those are some of the rarest. But when you get really, really big, the whole physiology of these giant figures change to the point where they're not really human anymore, when they have an extra finger and toe on their foot and also an extra row of teeth. And there's some things that are known about them, such as being a maritime culture and eating a lot of seafood, including big abalone shells that they could just chomp on with those big double rows of teeth and probably have a nice little tasty meal there. So there could be reasons they were that way. But my premise is, when I begin the talk, is look at the Earth as a whole. This has been a habitable planet for millions of years. Even in the times of dinosaurs, human-like creatures could have probably been here, albeit in much smaller numbers on the surface planet than it are now. But the fact remains, that's a very long period of time that either groups of people could have come here as visitors, or could have been perhaps shipwrecked here in our sense of the word and left behind and just had to find their way on this planet. And then it's been known through many legends that the giants were fought against, and they were cannibals by the Native American people, including the Lovelock Cave giants with red hair and were very much Caucasian-like. And there's a living memory history from Sarah Winnemucca of these giants being cornered in the Lovelock Cave. And they collapsed the avalanche on them once they got them in there, and then created bonfires and smoked them out. And then it was just a place they never came back to. That was a taboo location. Many centuries later, Lovelock Cave was excavated, and what did they find? Mummified giants, dead giants. And then we're talking 8, 9, 10 feet tall, the Lovelock Cave ones, with red hair and very Caucasian-like features and red beards. And this is different than the bog people, who also had red hair. But some of the comments were, people in the bog, the water, the chemistry can change the color of their hair from black to red. And while that may be the case, the ones that are in the desert region had no exposure to bogs or water. They were just buried basically in a desert environment, in a very cold environment. In both cases, what we're seeing is a very high sophistication of culture as well. And that's what fascinates me about the giants and the very older inhabitants of North America, as well as around the world, that they had a unique culture in and of themselves. And I think that's really cutting edge discussion when we can start looking at the different ways that they may have lived their lives when they were here on Earth.
Mm-hmm. Well, and talk about that cosmology. Can we go back? I had read something a long time ago about the possibility of the giants also having elongated skulls. Did you find any research on that, or that? Oh yeah, for
sure. That would be the Paracas skulls of Peru, and those are just ginormous skulls, much bigger than human skulls. I have some dioramas where you can see the cranial capacity is 30%, 40% larger than a normal human. And the thing with these elongated heads, a lot of skeptics would say, you can put a board and wrap and shape this size of the skull, and that's true, you can. But you cannot increase the cranial capacity. You cannot just have the skull and the brain expand by 30 or 40%. It's impossible. So once again, we're talking about a different species of very human-like entities that lived here on Earth.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever find any research any with horns? I read somewhere there were horns. Some of them that actually had horns. Have you found anything like that?
Not a real convincing replica that I think could be verified by several different sources. I have seen images of that. And I guess my answer would be is if we're talking about a variety of different human-like entities living on this planet over the course of millions of years, not just thousands back to the last ice age or 10,000 or 15,000 when the giants seem to have been prospering on this continent, but even hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago too. Some of them can be dated at very, very old. Now, are these the fallen angels or the Anunnaki or the Nephilim in the Bible? I'll let Bible scholars discuss that, but isn't it interesting that that text also mentions the existence of giants way back in our prehistory? It
does. So we haven't had, it's been wiped out of our everyday talk, but it's probably in there just of our history. We just haven't brought it out to surface to talk about it. And so in your work, you're help bringing it out so we can talk about it and see that it really did exist and has existed all along.
That's right. And now it's just coming to light, as so many of these other subjects are. And it's a wonderful period in time when so much of this information is coming out to be able to articulate it and help people understand the context of who and what has existed on the surface of this planet. And just as the way Ancient Aliens makes a case that it's been happening for a long, long time here, well, some of those inhabitants, maybe they wanted to stay. Look, planet Earth is the garden planet. It always has been a very lush, fertile, water-based planet with these incredible continents and the life on the land and the sea, as well as the sky. So it's a planet that's always been a jewel and very highly esteemed and coveted. And from my understanding, at the position it's in the far outer wing of the Milky Way galaxy, it's also positioned very strategically for intergalactic travel, coming in and out of the Milky Way galaxy. Apparently it's a portal, as well as having some wormholes and shortcuts that emanate not far away from our solar system, or perhaps right here in the solar system from various planets or the sun. So it is a way over point, and that's why it's been so critical, and that's why there is a war on here on this planet too for who's going to be the ruler and master of this domain.
Da, 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 da.
Da, 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 da.
Well, it's so if these giants like from off planet, would they, from your studies, like with the Nibiru, that I find that fascinating, where they are the limb and they slept with, they found that the women are beautiful here. Can you talk a little bit about that, or is that?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, it all ties in to the narrative that there were these other kind of entities here on this planet. I wouldn't even say to call them human is really fair or accurate. They were human-like, but if you were to break down their DNA, and oh, by the way, part of how the bog people down in Florida were so well preserved, they retained brain tissue. So when you get soft tissue for DNA testing, you can get some very exact pinpointed dates. And it was known that this group had lived there for over 1,000 years, right there on the coast of Cape Canaveral. And you got the intercoastal waterway with a whole bunch of species. In fact, we saw a manatee that live only in the freshwater parts. That was pretty cool. And then on the, just drove about a half a mile across the outer island there at Port Canaveral, And then we went to Cape Canaveral and then Titusville in search of the giants and went swimming in the Atlantic Ocean. So we had a variety of food sources as well, from the ocean, from the freshwater, and also the land. And apparently they hunted bobcats and have some artifacts from some wild animals that lived during the Ice Age, the Pleistocene. It's just incredible to think that these modern humans that came back with DNA samples that said absolutely not Native American, nothing to do with the Seminoles, nothing to do with any of the tribes, the Miami tribe, none of them, a different race altogether. If anything, more Oriental, but certainly most of the looks were more Caucasian than any other race. Now, these were certainly Homo sapiens, and they were not necessarily giants either. But the fact that they were not Native American and lived for over 1,000 years on the Florida coast, probably several thousand, but found this one bog area that became a graveyard, a ritualistic graveyard. And the other thing that was pretty interesting about it is all their heads were facing in one direction, towards the west. So they were all looking inland, except for one woman who was straight down, but she had a whole bunch of berries and herbs. It was thought that she might have been like a shaman woman, or may have, who knows what happened to her, but she had like a different composition in her stomach and suggests she was someone different, or maybe had been ritually poisoned. Who knows what happened to her, but she was buried different, face down in the bog with the board and the stakes. If you didn't have that feature, those bodies would have risen up and then finally succumbed to the elements. They'd have been long gone. But the fact that they sunk down into the bog, which just basically seeped in and absorbed around the bodies and then just shrunk them in place like a pickling technique with all this mud, and apparently the temperature was just right. There was decomposition. They're not quite as good as some of the bog people that are found out of the northern parts of Europe. But it's interesting that the prehistoric people could recognize that and use it as some sort of final resting place, much like the pharaohs attempted to do it as well.
So they more than likely lived there. That was their living space as well, right? Or nearby.
With so many remains, I think this is, my opinion is, I would like to talk to an archaeologist. Fortunately, we didn't have that chance, and the museum was closed. But my feeling was this was a place of the dead. This was a necropolis of sorts, because they were found all over this one bog area when they were putting in a road in 1982. And when they were using the backhoe, the driver thought that he was hitting a whole bunch of big white boulders, and they turned out later to be skulls and heads. So they stopped the excavation. They drained the bog by digging deep wells, and it just drained the water right out. And then the scientists went in there and did a mass excavation and archaeological dig in the mid-1980s. And that's when this story became well known. And then when the DNA tests and also the analysis of the textiles, and it also was found the oldest water gourd north of Mesoamerica. So in all of North America, north of the high cultures of Mexico, the oldest artifact, including a water jug, found right there. Oldest textiles, where weaving was apparent, and very elaborate different kinds of material was manufactured and then placed with the dead, as well as children with their toys. And it ran the gamut from toddlers to people in their 70s. And very ritualistically, much like the pharaohs, not as elaborate as that, but the same kind of mentality went into it, that is, preserve the body in a mummification process and give them items for the afterlife. So it's utterly fascinating. And to find some of these items and stories about the giants, and when I speak of the giants in North America, it's mainly in the Ohio River Valley, in the northeast as well as some of the Mississippian peoples on the eastern side of this continent. But then you have pockets of these ancient giants living in the last Stone Age, like the Lovelock Cave and Spirit Cave giants on the shores of Lake Lahoshan, which was an ice age lake and was massive. It went basically from Salt Lake in Utah all across northern Nevada, which is considered the Great Basin. There's no river exit for all the valleys and pretty much the entire state of Nevada. So it's just a Great Basin. And during the Ice Age, there was a huge lake there, a huge inland sea in North America called Lake Lahoshan. Went all the way up to southern Oregon, to Northern California, where Oregon, California, and Nevada meet. Then down all the way to where they do Burning Man. That's a good example of part of the dry lake bed of ancient Lake Lahoshan. And when you're out there, you can see the striation marks in the hills of all the levels that Lake Lahoshan would have had, drought years, rainy years. And then right on the top of the high water mark are these caves where they found these giants in a mummified fashion with their grave utensils and items that they had buried with them too. So really fascinating to see these stories repeat themselves across North America, but also what I'm finding is around the world.
And like you said, more of a sophisticated community, a tribe, and if they're putting it all together, kind of like what we do now, where we're kind of replicas of replicas of replicas in a way, but where we have our cemeteries where we bury our dead and have our individual rituals of what we believe in for the afterlife.
Wow. Yeah, so it's one of those things that just makes you wonder about how old this planet has supported intelligent life, how long they've been creating megalithic temples, as we find in South America and Asia, and even underwater, like Yonaguni off the coast of Okinawa Islands in Japan. So archaeology also that dates back to the Ice Age and sometimes older. So that's really the takeaway from all this, is we're looking at a world civilization of very intelligent beings that go way beyond what we are told that the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, spawned the first culture 8,000-9,000 years ago, and then everything rose from there. So you have a dating that goes even much older now that we found with Göbekli Tepe and other locations, and quite frankly, the megalithic sites that are always the oldest that you find.
Well, and then Göbekli Tepe, it's hard to say that, but where they thought that kind of dispels the whole thing of hunters and gatherers, right? That so talk about that, I guess, a little bit. And I found that fascinating too, with that temple and the not giants per se, but the giant structures that were there that were uncovered.
Yeah, totally fascinating.
So
what's up with you these days? What are you going to talk about at Contact the Desert, Miss Barbara Jean Lindsey?
Well, I'm going to be talking about, giants, but that's your forte. I'm going to be talking about I just hold space for people. That's part of my work. I show up, I hold space for people to tell their stories and to exchange information with one another and connect with one another and then see where that group consciousness goes. And it usually gets very elevated and people get healings and inspiration and communication, that sort of thing. And I see that with your stories, by you telling your stories, these giant stories. It's like when I think of giants, I think of the only one I can think of is like the Goliath story, the little boy that, Goliath, and I forget his name, that, where the young man hits him with the slingshot and out goes the giant.
Goliath,
I
right.
mean, Goliath, yeah. It's like, that we have that story, but I think there's so many stories that we're missing that like with you, by digging up the history, we get to talk about it. And by talking about it, you connect the dots, and then it can be part of our history again, our history that's been taken from us in so many ways. And when I think of giant too, it doesn't mean a basketball player, right? So maybe they have some of that giant DNA, right? It could be there.
Yeah. It could be in the NBA, but and a lot of tall guys have pituitary glands that basically create what a condition known as gigantism. And it's usually characteristic with a really heavy brow. I don't really have that. I got small hands and small feet too for a guy my size, and my legs are just super long. That's why I appear tall to most humans. But I'm comfortable in my skin body bone suit. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
It allows me to travel far and wide, and usually unharassed. People leave me alone.
Well, yeah, they would have to think about it, right? So you can be a real sensitive in that body, and not worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about going to South America. In fact, when I see you next, I may already purchase my ticket. I'm about ready to take the plunge.
Oh, okay,
because,
let's hear it.
Well, so not sure if you know, but I lost my apartment in a no-fault eviction about 2 months ago. And a guy bought my building out, and I had the best apartment, and I was rent controlled. And so they had to give us a settlement, and my girlfriend and I both got a payout. But believe me, if I had a choice, I'd rather have stayed. But I'm trying to make a unfortunate occurrence an opportunity, and I am in a position that I could be able to buy a place. But it's top of the game right now in real estate. And I have a sense that there's going to be a correction, if not an outright crash. So I'm thinking I'll buy my time. So what I did is I just put all my stuff in storage in Carson City, and I got a realtor, and I'm pre-approved on a loan. But I'm in no hurry to do it. I want to buy up in Lake Tahoe because I love to ski so much, and I just want to make my home in the mountains for a while. And I love San Francisco, and I'll keep doing the How Weird Street Fair, but every time I'm between places, and it's been 2 or 3, I've had to deal with eviction before in San Francisco. It's, crazy money here right now with real estate. So I'll use this as an opportunity to take a trip and round out planet Earth and go to the last 2 continents that I haven't been to, and that is South America and Antarctica. With extra bonus if I can make it to the Falkland Islands and Thule Island, which is the reported home of the black goo. So there's a whole bunch of reporting I want to do, and that's why I want to get my ticket before I go to contact. So I'll say, hey, look, I'm committed. I'm going. And then I would be, of course, going to the megalithic sites, maybe even hiking the Inca Trail up to Machu Picchu, and doing Lake Titicaca, Great White Brotherhood there. Then go into Argentina, and I might buy a camper van and do a little media project about it too. And then be on the trail of the Argentinian Nazis, go down to San Carlo di Bariloche, do some interviews, see what I can find out there, maybe go to their submarine base where they had the U-boats were coming up after World War II, like months after Germany surrendered. U-boats were turning up in Argentina. So go on the trace of that, see if I can go out to Falkland Islands, see what my budget will be to allow that. But certainly want to get on a boat or find a way to fly down and investigate the Illuminati Disneyland of Antarctica.
Well,
Boy, could I have some stories if I came back and got some insight on that. I'd be the heroic contact in the desert next year.
Heck yeah, you would be. And you'll have to bring, will Marcus Polk be going with you, or some friends going with you?
No. I'm prepared to go it alone, but somehow I feel like others will attach to this if I make it that way.
Almost like having a film crew with you, or so that you could film it and write about it. Not only interview, but I always see you as a writer. You know, you're a beautiful writer, and you've written over 9 books, and it just seems to be a part of who you are. From where I sit to see you, you know, it's like I just see your words that in the middle of the night writing about it as well.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And there's some gaps I want to fill in my third and final book in the esoteric series called Beyond Esoteric. Mm-hmm. And it would have to do with some of these subjects I just brought up. To go down there, it's like the land of mystery in so many ways. It's what everybody's talking about on all these different levels, including the Fourth Reich in the Americas. It's not just America, USA, but the Americas, as in all of the Americas, which is where they seem to have fled to post-World War II, including Hitler himself, who most likely lived out his natural life in this area around Bariloche. So, and it looks just like the German Alps, too. That's why they all loved it, just as Hitler had his eagle's nest at Berchtesgaden in southern Bavaria. They love those soaring peaks. And so do I, quite frankly. And that's why I'm psyched to do this trip. And while I got it in me, I ought to do it. And then I'll be set for 7.
You got to. You got to do it. And then we'll all go on the trip with you. You know, you'll
live vicariously, through my media project. But it's a good time for me to reinvent myself. So as I look at it like the Chinese, that every misfortune can be turned around into an opportunity.
Yeah, it's where you're meant to go do this now, and otherwise you would, you know, like when you get too comfortable, you don't do as much. And although you do more than most, you know, like with the street fair, Keep San Francisco Weird, I just think that's wonderful that you, and you started that with just an idea, getting together. And how many years has that been now?
That has been 19 years. We just did on May 6th, so earlier this month, had our 19th annual, and then we're going to go do our 20th annual next spring, the big one.
Yeah,
maybe we'll get you out.
Well, I'm going to, oh, I'd love to come. I'm a California girl, so I've been, you know, I like to travel too. And it's funny because I also am homeless, kind of homeless. I'm staying with my sister right now, and all my stuff is in storage. So I know I'm going to be doing some traveling. I'm supposed to go to Switzerland and do some things there. But after that, I'm kind of open and see where I go and what I'm going to do. And I have a lot more living to do. You know, you have to be vital and explore and be out there, you know, to still grow and change and get information and give information and get in trouble in a good way and shake some things up, right?
You got it. Keep it interesting here on planet Terra.
Yeah. Well, are you going to write a book about the giants? Do you know, or is that
I already did. It's already in my Sacred Places North America book and in Modern Esoteric. So the book you have, you can look in the chapter called The Blood of the Gods.
Okay, I will.
And that's a lot of the stuff on the giants, including some pictures. One of the most publicized archaeological digs was in Rwanda, 1990s, I'm pretty sure. And some rogue archaeologists didn't want it to just be destroyed and taken away, and they took photos and released them. And some of the best photos of one of the digs in modern times comes through there. So I reproduced those images in Modern Esoteric. But you'll see if you come to my presentation on Saturday morning at 8:30, Barbara Jean, we're going to have to get you a little coffee. Get you to come on out. It's one of the free talks. I'm glad to do it from 8:30 to 10:15.
Yeah,
I got about
Sure.
70 really amazing images, even one QuickTime video. And I've been working on this for many years, but found this was a subject near and dear to my heart, maybe because of my stature, but also what an incredible story that has been withheld from us and needs to be told.
Right. And also about with the Smithsonian kind of trying to cover it up. I read something somewhere about that.
Of course they have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's called Smithsonian Gate. It's been going on since the 19th century, and they have been caught literally dumping remains into the Atlantic just to get rid of them. They were the worst. The absolute worst.
Oh my God.
The cardinal sin of archaeology they have been accused of doing. So
wow.
That's the extent they want to keep this covered up. So I think a natural second question is, well, why? What is so terribly important about covering up the existence of giants? Well, it is a big problem, mainly because it makes us rethink our place in the world. And look, just not even more than 100 years ago, people were so superstitious and so religious that they felt that God put us in the center of everything in the universe, and man is all powerful because we've come to understand what God is. Well, that's very ethnocentric, to say the least, to consider us in that general position where we're all great and there's only one God. I mean, that all these facades are basically being torn down right now before our eyes. We're starting to see so much into what it's all really been about, and that is controlling the masses, quite frankly, and controlling the narrative. And in the case of the giants, it's controlling the narrative of who we are and who we are on this planet, and the fact that we've shared it with so many other different peoples. And I would go so far as to say the giants were a different race.
Yeah.
People like different races. Then we're in the alien category, quite frankly, ancient alien category. And when you look at all the mound sites where they were pulled out of, I'm going to go through this in my talk.
Right.
And all the headlines in the 19th century, this is just in North America. Got a lot of really great stuff from Egypt, as well as other finds around the world, as well as you mentioned, the elongated, some call them cone heads, maybe that's a derogatory term, but the Paracas skulls, as well as the Star Child skull of the late Lloyd Pye, would talk about that in his talks. And they've done DNA tests on these. And the last time I gave this talk, as a very early morning workshop, Jacques Vallée was in the audience, and he asked me about if any DNA testing had been done. It just so happened that when I saw Michael Tellinger for breakfast, I asked him, and he said that Claus Donna had done DNA testing, conclusively showing on a giant that came from Ecuador that they were not human. Very similar markers, but keep in mind, chimpanzees are over 99% similar to humans. So it's not much of a stretch to say, even though they're slightly different, they're still very much human-like. Well, yeah, and so are the great apes. But what does that tell you? So it's okay to look down on lesser species, but it's not politically correct to look up on higher, possibly ET species. That's where the funding dries up, and those in archaeology for a career could lose their jobs, lose their positions, their esteem, so they're forced to follow the line and just put these giants out of history. But so what I find it interesting, I will talk about in my presentation on Saturday morning at Contacting the Desert, is that the dwarves of the world, the little guys that are only 3 feet tall and 3.5 feet tall for a full-grown male, half the size of us, well, that's legitimate. Those can be another species. And indeed, in the journal Nature last year, it came out that, okay, it's accepted by science that these are not Homo sapiens. They're half our size. They're a different race of people. We can accept the dwarves, but we can't accept the giants. So come on. It's a double standard right there. So the little Flores man, sure, indeed, they were one, and there's several others around the world, including one up in Siberia too. So these little guys, the Denisovian man, they roam the planet too. It's not just to throw all the cred on the giants. There were other little guys, and somehow they're okay to be recognized, but not the really jumbo giant guys and girls.
Can you talk too about, when I'm hearing you talk about this, and the next vision I get is with a correlation or anything having to do with Sasquatch. Have you?
Okay, yeah. Well, I do have a cryptozoology chapter in Future Esoteric, and you can't not address him. It's very esoteric subject that there could be this. I know that sound.
Yeah, but we can be talking about giants.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message.
In breaking news, a visiting Syrian diplomat reported today that their population is evolving rapidly and advancing into a fifth-dimensional consciousness. They are seeking peace with all cosmic cultures, which may mean that the Earth will be asked to join the prestigious Galactic Federation of Light Alliances. Please join Debbie West and Michael Hathaway on Lost Knowledge, Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Studio A, for the latest breaking news on the Star Visitors' peaceful contact and the ongoing project of cleansing the Earth.
Who are you? I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you. Why am I here? You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision, which has led you inexorably here. You haven't answered my question. The Matrix is older than you know. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equation. Choice. The problem is choice.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be here Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Private Eye Matrix Revealed with Monique Lassonde.
Hello, my name is Mr. Rowe. I am the host of Reality Extraction on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I utilize logic, intellect, and magic to methodically atomize, vivisect, analyze, examine, study, scrutinize, and extract an essence of reality from a fog of illusion and confusion. You can find me on Studio B every Thursday at 1700 hours Pacific Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. No topic taboo, no subject too strange. I strive to take a neutral standpoint during the dissection of the topic at hand. That's Reality Extraction with Mr. Rowe on Revolution Radio.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Most guys freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
The body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. The heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution. Radio.
Hello, this is Maggie Rose McGrath of The Concord Show.
And co-host Marine Corps Map, coming to you on Monday and Tuesdays in Studio A, noon to 2 Eastern.
And Studio B on Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern, with educational, instructional, information, and situational update, often with wonderful guests on the current landscape in the U.S. and overseas.
This is a go.
We are with you, side to side, and back to back.
Please join us on Monday through Wednesdays,
as well as other hosts and guests here on Revolution Radio.
We're not gonna take it anymore. That's right, we're not gonna take it anymore. We said we're not gonna take it anymore. That's right, we're not gonna take it anymore.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
This is your host, Barbara Jean Lindsey. Welcome back to the Cosmic Oracle Show. And we have with us our guest, Brad Olsen. And welcome back to the show, Brad. And we were talking about giants. And you're going to be having your lecture coming up on Saturday at 8:30 in the morning. Forbidden Archaeology, the Mystery of Giants in Our Ancient History. So you'll do your multimedia presentation, and you're going to just blow the minds of everyone there with, I mean, you've been on this, you said, for several years. So I'm really excited about it. I'll come with coffee. I'll be there. I'm not going to miss
thanks
it.
For the support. Appreciate that.
And so we do want to thank all of our supporters that are listening in. If you can give a donation, we'd really appreciate it. Just go to freedomslips.com, push that donate button. Know that every dollar you send goes directly to keeping us on the air. And thank you in advance. And so right before the break, we were talking about maybe a possible correlation between giants of our past history and that of the Sasquatch connection.
Right. Sasquatch is a Native American name, popularly known as Bigfoot. Yeti, the abominable snowman in the Himalayas, goes by many names. And it is quite an enigma, but I would not say that's a giant per se. They are giant creatures. They are human-like, but my understanding is they're multidimensional entities from the fifth dimension. Is some information I've collected on them lately, and does explain the holes in space-time where they basically can be seen stepping out, such as the Skinwalker Ranch, and there's other paranormal hotspots, just in the same way that there are sacred places at very key junctures of ley lines and the energy lines of the planet. There are also these locations that stimulate humans in different ways, and also maybe entrance points. It's a very common among Native American people to talk about an emergence point, a place where they all came from the inner earth and populated the surface environment. It's called Sipapu, and almost all North American cultures have some sort of reference to this place. It could be a mythical realm, or it could be a very exact location, a feature in the geography. So, for example, the Hopi people lived on the upper plateaus, the three mesas in northeastern Arizona, and their ancestors, the Anasazi, although they like to be now known as the Puebloan people, and they would migrate down the Little Colorado River, and just before it emptied into the larger Colorado River, in the bottom of the Grand Canyon is this round dome, almost nipple-like shape with a top portion and an indenture in that top portion. And that's the exact location where the Hopi people came from. Now, I'm friends with Clifford Mahooty. He's also been on Ancient Aliens. He's a Zuni elder, good friends with David Hatcher Childress and a bunch of people I know in the Sedona area. And Clifford Mahooty is his presentation, as you saw at the Awareness Life Expo, places the Hopi people as the progenitors of all of North America, as the survivors of Lemuria out in the Pacific Ocean. So just a trans-Pacific water trip to the American continents, and here they set foot and became established in the Southwest and became the Puebloan people. So all these places have these emergence points, and the planet is filled with sacred places, and 3 of my books are on that subject: Sacred Places North America, Sacred Places Europe, and Sacred Places around the world. And I have Karen Tate with my publishing company, CCC Publishing. She did Sacred Places of Goddess. So we have 4 books in the series, and all of it ties into a world culture that is much, much older than it's being given credit for.
And if they want to reach you, where's the best place for them to contact you, to buy your books, or to talk with you, or to give you some information on these subjects?
Yeah, you can, if you want to know more about me, and send me a note via the contact page at bradolsen.com. Definitely look at all of those, reply to almost all of them. The best way to look at the books that I do and the other books of authors that I've published, go to cccpublishing.com, and that is where you can buy copies off the website, including ebooks. But the books that come out of CCC Publishing that are mine, I can sign for people. But we also have author Leo Lyon-Zagami, who's got 4 books in print with a 5th on the way. As I mentioned, Karen Tate, Sacred Place of Goddess book. Also, Steve Jones did The Tribes of Burning Man, which is like my last publishing title that I published of another author, because it's a great book, and Burning Man is a very significant cultural phenomenon, if not here on the West Coast, Northern California, Nevada, whole West Coast, but really around the world now. It's inspired countless people, including myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that book, and then I positioned myself with the esoteric type subjects, and that was Lon Milo Duquette. He's a very famous magician, a white wizard, I call him, of the good kind, a researcher. And somewhat his opposite is Leo Lyons-Agami, who's been on InfoWars numbers of times lately, and his books are very insightful and I think very groundbreaking in so much that they're now finally giving us an insight and connection of the occultic world where some of these more demonic entities may reside. Not to use that word, but it's kind of a biblical word, but sort of negative service to self entities may be contacted with powers that we're still only now becoming close to understanding, and that is what we would deem as superhuman abilities, but the real ones, not the ones you see in superhero movies, but that we could all possess as well if we were learned and taught in some of these traditions and understood how to do it. And it could be become a great source of our own personal power to know this information too. I know it's done really great wonders for me, both physically, spiritually, mentally, my state of mind, everything will advance by knowing this subject matter. And the giants being kind of an aside to the bigger picture here, which I also speak about, and that is humankind ascending. It's that period of the great unveiling when all is to be seen and known. And it's wonderful for you and I to play our roles and see each other at these conferences, and we're doing the best we can in this human incarnation this time around.
We are. There's so much to learn and so much to do, and I know with you're doing the giants, with the mounds, we are not. We're just beginning. We're like babies waking up to this whole new what's available to us, and where we are, where we came from is a good foundation to start. If they could take away our real true heritage, then that disempowers us. And so we're getting our power back by learning our history and exploring where we came from. And by having that in our toolbox, we can go out and change some things that need to be changed here. I see that's what you do. So I want to thank you for it. Takes courage too, because it's easier just to sit home sometimes and not do anything, right? So,
well, the nature of the word esoteric, Barbara Jean, as you know, is information to a select few. Those who seek this out, whether through their own voluntary means, which usually is the best way, and it has been so, joining a secret society, wanting to learn this hidden wisdom and the secret sciences, so forth. And it's been around for a long time. But just like as we seem to be on the leading edge of people making sense of our new interdimensional, extraterrestrial filled universe construct here, that is just now in its infancy and really being understood and articulated, that it's a wonderful time to have a role in helping to make sense of all this. And there's a lot to be made sense of, and it goes on the dark spectrum of things. It can be really disturbing and keep you up at night if you think too much into it, or it can be very enlightening, and it could be the crux of humanity on the cusp, making this big jump into a new era of humanity, the golden age. And I would like to see that happen in my lifetime.
I would too. I definitely would. And it is sometimes you go down that dark cycle and it can't take you out and take you down. So you have that's when you have friends that are, and that's why going to conferences and meeting with other people that will help pull you up out of that sometimes, because you can feel isolated and alone during this kind of work, especially when you just get turned on to it and you feel like you're going to never have enough information. You could study the rest of your life and have enough information, but it is the acclimation of yourself and getting to know yourself as that kind of that middle road, where you can then have a choice. At least you have a choice, right?
It's always good to have a choice. Well, I was immediately attracted to you, Barbara Jean, from your incredible story, life beyond the waking hours here in a human body. And it really was fascinating to me that you had such lucidity in the event surrounding your circumstances that it's a real lesson for all of us to comprehend that perspective of being aboard ships and having a conscious memory of it and being able to share that in the way you did was really great.
Oh, thank you. Well, and it wasn't a physical thing. It was on the inner dimensions, and that wasn't acceptable back in the day.
Back in the day, but now people are accepting it. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
We are waking up to it, and this is the cutting edge of how we're going to change the world. And I've said it long ago, and you've said it on my setup piece, that the revolution is consciousness. It is when all of us wake up. It's not with guns and sticks and stones anymore. Forget that. We'd get slaughtered anyways. They got them all and the best stuff. We conquer them. Done. Well, the way that Martin Luther King and Gandhi and all the greats who espoused nonviolent resistance are able to be the ones who make the biggest leaps forward. And I hope that the UFO community stays benevolent and always not cannibalize itself and become divided, because really we are so much stronger when we're together.
Right. And not only together in our insights and what we put out there and what we've become and where we're going, but also with everybody, because everybody brings something to the table, whether it's your next door neighbor, or the postman or whatever. We're all opening up. We can all change and we can all grow. And I do think we can have peace here. I can see it. You can see it. We can create this here. It's been done before by probably our history. It wasn't this war, I'm sure.
No, it's not humans' destiny to kill ourselves off with war. We've been manipulated on a mass level to think that it's acceptable to do that, and it's not. And as part of the great unveiling here, as we start to see how utterly manipulated we've been, and my last two presentations at Contact in the Desert had to do with how everything is fake in society and helping people try to see through the facade that's been built for us, which is portraying itself as our reality. And wars do not have to be our reality, and quite frankly, needs to be done away with that notion immediately. And that will give us a big jump start into this next great leap forward.
I agree. I'm totally down for that. And and I know you came in that way. I came in that way. Whatever planet I come from, we have peace always. And we work things out. It's not like it's an airy-fairy thing, but we can negotiate. We can meet a middle ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, well, I want to thank you for coming on the show today and being our guest and bringing your wisdom to the table. I want to ask one quick question that I didn't get to ask, and we'll end with that. And are there giants that are walking among us today?
That's a great question, and this is what I'm starting to get some feedback that there indeed could be alive on this planet. Maybe on the surface and maybe also underground in some capacity. And the locations would be possibly underground Antarctica. It's one suggestion. Maybe even under Lake Titicaca, the Great Brotherhood. where a lot of UFO sightings are seen. And then for the other perspective is we're at this great moment of time where all this stuff is coming out.
Mm-hmm. And we get to use it to our advantage then to evolve the planet while we're here.
Correct. And that's a great.
And then we get to join the galactic community, and and I'd love to go off planet while I'm here, and not only spiritually or astrally, but actually physically too. To be able to just go off planet and back would be glorious.
Mm. Yeah. Well, let's learn how to astral travel, and I guess as I understand it, you're able to go back and look at all events. Or we could use some of this ET technology like the yellow cube and a looking glass technology that accesses the timeline and able to look at ancient history with uncritical eyes. And then all conspiracies could be solved right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of how we've been kept in the dark, because there are some incredible crimes, and this is going to go really deep, and it's going to be very difficult to process the depravity in some of the crimes that have been committed. But it's like South Africa went through apartheid. You have that truth and reconciliation phase, and try to be the humanitarian and don't get caught up in violence to be used as violence against a violent person. Just lock them up for the rest of their lives. No lynch mobs. That's we're above that. We don't have to do that. We just make sure that they could never harm another person for the rest of their life, and they got to sit in a jail cell and think about it.
Well, it's
that's
like
how
a
I'd
new.
like to see this all end. That's a very idealistic portrayal, but hey, we can think big.
We can think big, okay? And the more of us that connect together, there's power in us together, and dreaming a new dream.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you again for coming on, Brad, and I'll see you contact in the desert. I'll bring you coffee. What do you drink? Or do you drink coffee for Saturday?
I love coffee. We'll have coffee together for sure.
Okay. That sounds good. That sounds good.
Well, thanks for having me on, Barbara Jean, and looking forward to seeing you there and
my pleasure.
Connecting, and I'll be out at my table most of the time, signing books, catching a few talks. But I guess I'm right across from Jimmy Church down in the main part of the marketplace where we're going to have our tables set up.
Cool. Is there anyone that you want to see more than anybody?
Well, to be honest with you, I just came back from Florida, and it's like bam, bam, bam for me.
Yeah,
so I haven't even really studied. I know a few people that are going to be there. I would like to meet Nassim Haramein.
That's who I want to see.
Yeah,
Someone
hear his
asked that
talk.
question, and I want to hear his talk for sure. That was my number one person.
Yeah, he hasn't been there for a while, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I look forward to seeing you, and all of our listeners hope they'll come and see you and take your hand and buy your books and help fund your travels, because where you go, we're going to go with you. So
it'll be good to have you. And yeah, Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 10:15 in the Atlantis room. I'm doing my Giants in Prehistory, the Forbidden Archaeology presentation, and then I'm also on a UFO panel with Jimmy Church Sunday night. So I'll have two official appearances, but then I'll come to the meet and greet, and we have another one with all the presenters get together Thursday night.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. Also, are you going to be
I'll
there?
see you there. Yeah, I'm driving up that morning, but I think I should be able to get there pretty much in time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll see you there then.
All righty then. Thanks again for having me, and I'll see you in about a week.
Okay, see you later. Take care. Bye-bye. Good night. Okay, our listeners, we're still going to be here, but there's some information for you concerning Giants with Brad Olsen, and that we were really honored to have him on our show this evening and to hear his wisdom and his years of research. Giants, you know, I have the only thing I can talk about with giants is with Goliath, that story, and the different types of stories of humans versus giants, but also about the possibility of the giants with the Anunnaki. And I know that Brad's going to be talking about that in his lecture, so don't miss it. And so we're going to move right along now with the next part of our show. I'm going to check the chat, though, and see if there's any questions we have there that someone might have. And I did want to let the listeners know that I received a letter from, I don't have it right in front of me, I don't think, but a lady who is not going to make it at Contact in the Desert, and she wouldn't be able to tell her story there, but she actually sent me her story. She wrote it out, and I have it. And so I told her I would be reading her story at Contact in the Desert at the Cosmic Cafe. And what I do there at the Cosmic Cafe is it's about people coming and telling their extraordinary stories. And that could be anything with extraterrestrials or UFO contact or interdimensional or astral travel, or it could be a story that's passed down from generation to generation. But they come, and it's a safe place that we can all get together and talk about it. And, you know, I started it the first time 4 years ago, and we only had like 15 people. And then it kept getting bigger and bigger. And so this year at Contact in the Desert, I will be hosting the Cosmic Cafes 4 different times. I haven't really talked much about that, so I think I'll go ahead and take a moment to talk about all of our time. We are going to be having the Cosmic Cafe at Contact in the Desert this year, so we will be having them. The first one will be on Friday from 2:15 to 4, and then also Friday from 7 to 9. And so it's, and then we'll have it on Saturday from 2:30 to 4:30, and Sunday from 2 to 4. And so we have 4 different occasions where people can come together, and if you're a contactee, and share your extraordinary story publicly, and know that it's in a respectful and honored space, and it's a collaborative space where you can tell your extraordinary stories from paranormal contact with non-human intelligence, UFO sightings, out-of-body experiences, altered states. So it's a place where we can get together, discuss it, you talk with friends, and we can connect. And by doing this, it's holding the sacred space. We dispel fear. Okay, that's the main job. That's the main reason we're doing it, is to dispel fear of these things happening, that they really are happening, and we really can't talk about it. And sometimes it's not such a big deal, that we can, hey, let's just acknowledge it. The truth is the truth is the truth, and talk about it. And sometimes you can read things in a book, or you can see it on a video, or but to have an experience yourself, no one can take that from you. And you know what happened to you, and you use that as a reference for the rest of your life. It's kind of like a natural biofeedback, that when you have an extraordinary experience, like having a relationship with an extraterrestrial being, that you can talk with other people, like-minded people. And so in this, we'll be doing it 4 different times. And I know some people don't feel good about going up and talking in front of a large audience. So this year, we're going to do things a little different. So I'm kind of excited about it, that we will be able to at least tell your story to one other person. And then it depends on how many people come each time. And then I just kind of scope since I've been a psychic for 30 years now, I kind of scope or psychically look at the group and see what they need. And then I'm kind of guided and it's not like I do everything I'm told either, but I have the information gets downloaded of what that group might need. So then I work with the group itself each time. So there's different times that we will be gathering together, and we have a new name, Cosmic Cafe Experiencers Gathering. And it is about people gathering, and so it's different time that we will gather and exchange our stories. And there should be, with that process comes a lot of healing, and we have a lot of fun and laughter, and some of them can be, very intense, and a lot of healing happens, and people are changed from the experience in a positive way. So I'm looking forward to that, and really happy to be able to host 4 Cosmic Cafes here. And I would like to do them at all the conferences. I think that's a part that needs to be at all the conferences, that we're able to have a Cosmic Cafe where people can get together and talk about their extraordinary experiences. So if any of you are listening and you do host a conference, please make that a part of your conference, is that the people that have had experiences get to show up and tell their truth, speak their truth, tell their stories. Because with each of us telling our stories, not only do we get a healing, but it also exponentially grows for other people to tell their stories of what's really going on here. And we don't want to sequester the truth. We want to know the truth, and we can handle it, and we are handling it. And by telling it, we become more empowered, self-empowered, and then as a group, we also grow. So come on out to the Cosmic Cafe and Contact in the Desert. I also, I just was here in Plumas Lake and attended a UFO ET meetup. That was really fun. So if you check out your town, you can go to the meetup.com, put in UFO ET in your hometown, and go. Get out of your comfort zone and go try it out. Go talk with other people who have had experiences. And here in Plumas Lake, it's a pretty small little town, but there are about 40 people there that all had stories to tell. So if you don't have one in your hometown, then start one. And I would be more than glad to help you. So if you want to start a UFO ET group in your hometown, you can find me at Barbara Jean Lindsey. That's BarBaraJeanLindsey.com. And I will do my best to help you. In fact, this conference coming up, I will be having some flyers of, if you want to start your own Cosmic Cafes in your hometown, how to do it. And you can use my name, you can use my logo, I don't care, just as long as we get it done. So that this movement, it's called the Experiencers Movement, actually, that it's really building momentum, and it's really starting to grow. In fact, in October, we have a conference just for experiencers, and it's the Stargate to the Cosmos.org, and that's with our lovely Sasha, and not lovely Sasha, our lovely Janet, and Sasha Lesson, and Stargate to the Cosmos, a Cosmic Consciousness Conference, and that's October 25th through the 28th, 2018, and I will be speaking there as well. And so, and I'll be doing workshops, and Brad's going to be there too. I forgot to mention that. Forgot to talk to Brad about that, but Brad Olsen will be also there. He will be speaking at the Stargate to the, and that's in October. Okay, so if you have a story and you can't make it to the conference, and so all you have to do is you can email it to me too at thecosmicoracle@gmail.com and send your story to me, and I will read that to the other people that are showing up so that you're counted for. And I'll let you know the response to it as well. You can also reach the Cosmic Oracle Show on Facebook. We have a Facebook page now, and you can go there and private message me and tell me your story. And I would be glad to tell that story at this event as well. So that's coming up. And I've been looking also at some of the things that are happening on a UFO investigations or experiences that are coming up. I found a website that I really like. You know how I like to share websites with you. And one that I really liked, if I can get it out of French, is UFOscience.wordpress.com. And it's a pretty cool website on UFO ET experiences, things that are happening. So that's a good website. Someone asked me for one of the websites that I like, and that is one that I do check out to see what's going on. So, and someone also asked me what the stone was for today, and so I did pull a stone for us, and that for the show today, it's from the crystalvaults.com. And one of the stones that I chose for today, which I kind of meditate on it, and then I get a guidance as to which one to use for our show today. And the one that I pulled today is an interesting one. I don't think I've had it on the show before, but it is a golden apatite crystal. So I thought you might like that. It's a beautiful crystal, and it is a kind of a golden green natural apatite crystal, and it's a crystal of many moods and colors. Usually, but not always, it's blue, and the one I have looks more yellowish looking. So a golden apatite is one of the purest crystals of the yellow ray, and the vibration of mental clarity and a strength of will and manifestation. And it kind of helps bring a sunny spiritual energy to your auric field, and it can inspire hope and passion for life. It also instills a sense of self-worth and self-confidence. So if you're looking any of those, which probably all of us do at some point in our life, you might try wearing or holding or using the golden apatite crystal. And it's so if your life's kind of out of sorts, or you have a lot of demands that are coming in from all over the place, you can be kind of pushed far away from where you want to be. And so using this crystal can help kind of insulate you from those external demands, or from temper shocks, or from kind of help add some emotional padding to your daily life. So it's kind of, I see it as kind of a really gold, yellow, beautiful color. And it can bring you much success and enthusiasm, happiness, and power. And so, hey, we can all use a little bit of that in our life. So it's mostly the color of kings and riches and of the sun. And gold itself touches a deep part of our minds. And like we were talking earlier about Egyptian culture and Sumerian cultures, and where gold, those feelings of gold. I know when I went to temples in Egypt, and as I went into the temple, it's the stone, the massive stone, but when I closed my eyes and looked at it from a psychic perspective, I could see that the whole temple was gold, especially one of the temples that I saw. It was in Dendera, and there was a small temple there. And in that temple, the whole temple itself was, all the walls from where I saw from a psychic perspective were all lined in gold. The whole walls and the hieroglyphs were like stamped into the gold walls themselves, and gold as a medium, a conductive metal, much like copper, using copper, but that it also has those healing elements of gold. And so apatite is kind of this natural gold color to it that can bring these touches in our minds of bring up images of mystical places and adventures, kind of like what Brad Olsen was talking about, where he's going to be continuing his journey of mystical places and adventure. So we wish him the best on his journey. So with that, apatite crystal is helps you kind of provide you with simple pleasures of life. And there's also a darker gold apatite too. So it's a kind of a sense of devotion and commitment. And so it's a beautiful crystal. You have to check it out. And that golden apatite crystal. And also today on our cards, because I always pick out a card for us for the show, it's something that I've been doing, is that it's kind of helping exercise that psychic muscle that we all have. And, the only thing that sets me apart from most of the listeners out there that I've done over 1,000 psychic readings. And I did 4 psychic readings today for people I don't know. And for me, it's really easy. It's like turning on a faucet, on and off faucet. A person comes up, they ask a question, boom, I can just turn it right on, and all this information comes, and then I just take that information and kind of access the person, and then figure out the best way for them to hear and understand the information that's given to me. And so each person's a little different, so I have to kind of change the way I speak to each person differently. And I had 4 readings today, and they were very different people with very different subjects. But as a psychic, my job is to just be neutral and grounded, bring my energy up. So most of my energy is actually up in my upper chakras, chakra for sure, but also in the above, where the crown chakra, where I kind of tune in to all that is, all that was, all that will be. It's kind of like the cosmic web, and I can just kind of click into that and go through it very quickly, like a data processor in a way, and find out the best information to this person. And we can all do that. We all have the ability to do it. I was just interested in the subject, and then I just practiced it. I had no choice. I had to practice it because I turned on psychic like 100% all in 24 hours, or 36 hours. And so I had to learn to acclimate, how to turn it on and off. But I know that as humans, we all have this ability to use our psychic ability. And we use it all the time, like intuitively. You can tell if a person is a good person or a bad person. If you can kind of gauge that, you can kind of tell with practice if a person's telling the truth or a lie. And you can gauge that and use it. And so we are going into a more intuitive society where we can talk telepathically to one another if we just practice it. It's like riding a bike. When you first start to ride a bike, you're going to fall, you have to get back up. And when you first start out, it's wobbly, and you don't know if you're coming or, and there's no certainty of if you're a good psychic or not. But after you practice, and after thousands of times, then you got it down. And but you never take anything for granted. I'm always very grateful to be able to do what I do. It's only a part of who I am. A long time in my life, I thought I was just a psychic, right, and just a healer. It's kind of like when you're a mother, that you're a mother, and that you're a daughter and a wife and a lover and a wife and a best friend, and that you also could be a researcher or a dancer or whatever those things. There's all these different aspects of ourselves that we can bring together and use to have an amazing life while we're here. And for me, I always bring it to more of an earth level where we can do some good while we're here. I mean, there's so much that needs to be done. Just pick one thing and do something, to help change a negative that you see here. And if we all do that, heck, in a year we would have a whole different place that we live from. But it takes courage to change, it really does. But we're all doing it, I don't know, sometimes just going outside and getting in your car and going down the street takes courage, right? So it depends on where you are in your life and what's up is what your courage is. So I want to thank all of our listeners today for tuning in, and I'm going to pull a card. And if you can't call in to the station, you can go to the chat room, freedomslips.com, and ask a psychic question there if you'd like. Or you can reach me on the Cosmic Oracle Show on Facebook. Private message me your question, and I'll answer that as well. So I do want to pick a card for us right now, so we'll do that. And let's see what we have here. So the card that I picked for today, for all of you listeners, is this card right here. And it's Four of Pentacles. So Four of Pentacles. And it's taken from the Druid Craft Tarot, and it's one of my very favorite. And a Four of Pentacles, the pentacles are associated with earth, with matter, with material possessions. The number 4 is associated with the physical world of matter too. And so in the Four of Pentacles, the power of earth is doubly emphasized. This may well refer to working on building your wealth, planning your finances, or building a business or political structure. Using the power wisely will ensure an extremely strong foundation, but you must be careful of an excessive preoccupation with accumulation or empire building. There is a danger of a loss of compassion, the withholding of affection in relationships, and greed and miserliness. In this, you may be using a preoccupation with money and with hoarding to protect yourself from feelings of inner loss and inadequacy. If this is not the case, it is possible that you are feeling strongly rooted and earthed in the world, and that you are able to flourish with a sense of safety, security, and inner strength that this gives you. And we were talking about that earlier with Brad about, they've taken away our heritage with, who are we? Why are we here? Where do we come from? These are just basic generic questions that we all should have the answers to, not only individually, but as our species, as humans, just as humans here on the earth, that we need to know our sense of rootedness, where we came from. And with the giants, with that, they can hold a key to part of this, of who we are and where we came from. And so it's that interdimensional part of us as well that we're working on and starting to open up to, and open minds to all these different things that are available to us out there as not only as a human being, but for male or female, and what that means too, right? We get to explore all of that, is who we are and how we want to express it. And I just see as humans, we're like such expressive beings. We have a need or an innate ability to express, and that's either with words or with writing or with dance or with music. I had a great call last night about music, and he was talking about that he was introduced to a young lady, and he's much older than her, and they had this connection, and he said he got a lot of flack from his buddies about it. And he said it wasn't a sexual thing, attraction at all. It was a spirit to spirit. Her song, her the way that she talked was such unabandonedness, and the way that she was able to express herself, and he connected with her with that, and she connected with him, and that they had this great immediate love or an immediate soul recognition with each other. And that is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's not something that you have to be ashamed of or hide, that it can happen. And they became very good friends. And he's going to go to her wedding. And they just knew that they had an exchange to do of energy, and that they would support each other. Sometimes in this world you meet with people and they're there to support you, to egg you on, kind of egg you on like a cheerleader. It might be your cheerleader telling you to go for it and try it and do it and get into that uncomfortable place where it's not comfortable. And you're saying, what am I doing this for? And, questioning yourself. And that's when you need a good friend that gets who you are when you don't get who you are. And so where you can rely on another human being, you can rely on another person to help lift you up, to help lift up your spirit and move you forward, kind of carry you, like when you can't carry or move yourself. It's good when you can have a friend that can do that for you and help you and take care of you when you can't take care of yourself, and that part of us is caretaking each other, where we go together as a species and as a group here. And so we have a lot of work to do. And so that's why I like Revolution Radio. I feel like all of the hosts here are so dedicated to spending so much time per week and not getting paid for it, and speaking their truth, however, and bringing on other people to talk about what they do, and at such a diverse variety of people too, and of hosts. And so I try to learn something all the time, right? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? We don't want to, we grow. If we don't grow, we die. And so we grow and change and move forward, not only individually, but as a group and as a species. And so, if that's my little rant for this evening. And and I had a quote, and I put it, this really cool quote that someone gave me. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. Okay, hey, here it is. Ta-da! Okay, it's by Iyanla Van Sant, and that's IYANLA-VANZANT. And this is how I'm going to start my Cosmic Cafe talk coming up on June 1st. And the quote is, and it goes like this: it's important that we share our experiences with other people. Your story will heal you, and your story will heal somebody else. When you tell your story, you free yourself and give other people permission to acknowledge their own story. So I think that's pretty cool. She says it beautifully, okay? Sometimes if you got an idea but you don't know how to express it, then there's always someone out there that could, if you're lucky, you can find them and they'll express it for you. But it is important that we share our experiences with other people, that we have a mirror or a soundboard to see, kind of check where we are, where we're going, and that we get to, by telling our story, especially if it's an extraordinary story, that this story will, by telling it, will heal you by telling it, and then also heals the people who hear your story. Because eventually they might relate to it partly or a little bit more, but by telling your story, it kind of works out. When I had several of my experiences over the years, when it first happens, the download is so intense and so strong that it kind of overtakes you, and it's like, okay, I can't take any. My reality is I'm full right now. So that it takes some time to assimilate story or what happened, assimilate physically, mentally, and spiritually, right? Of all of that, of how it all comes down, and so that you don't explode, right? So that you don't go crazy, and that you just need to figure out how it works for you. And sometimes that takes time, okay? And if you do have an extraordinary experience with a ET or a UFO sighting, that to not go into fear, that takes some time to sit with it and work with it, and tell a friend. You know, be mindful of what friends you tell. You want to tell it to a friend that could be neutral at least, and listen to you and be open-minded about it. And that would be the best. I know when I had my experience, man, I just told everybody. I didn't care. I had no filter, you know. And so I've gotten better. Sometimes I walk in the room, I don't say anything. But eventually, if you tell your experience story, it gets...
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at buyer risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Most guys freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
The body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting the danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed, People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country was founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to the banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Who? Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said.